Hello and welcome, BitMonger family. Monger with you here today. Hope you guys are all doing well. Just a quick update on what I've done. I did take some decisive action recently, and just so you know, we're all different on where we are in the market and how much we have, how much skin we have in the game, what our goals are, and our obligations. Certainly as an older guy that's retired like myself with a son who's going to college, my goals and things like this are going to be different from yours. So just keep that in mind as I give you some news here, kind of bombshell news, some action that I took. And what I did is, let me show you something here. Let me shrink it down and let's look at Bitcoin. By looking at the chart, it might better help you understand on why I did it. Okay, so here we're looking at the daily chart on Bitcoin, and we can see that this is the long-term trend line that I've mapped out. And just so you guys know, if this were to come all the way down and back down here to touch it again where we are right now, we would be sitting right around, if that were to happen today, we're right around $90,230 on this long-term trend line. Do I think it's going to go there? No, I don't. Eventually, I think it will when we enter a full-on bear market. But until then, I don't see that happening. I do think we will see more upside. However, let's take a look at this line here. We can see this is the midterm trend line. And this starts back here in May, okay? Yeah, right around the end of May is where I started this midterm trend line. And we can see it's touched it here, it came down, it touched it here, it touched it here. And then that long wick that we had during the recent event in which we had the mass liquidations of levered bets. Since that, it's come back up and it is touching it. Now, what I noticed though, guys, is if we look at the stock market and what's happening there, I believe that it could potentially come down further with some bad news or something like this. So what I did is, if we look at, let's take a look at the 15-minute chart, and this will help you better understand why I did it. So if we look at the 15-minute chart, we can see we had the long wick down, the capitulation wick. It came down here. It was running along that. It popped back up. It popped up here. It came back down. It popped up here again, and it failed. It failed, right? It failed to break this higher high that we had here. It hit it almost perfectly right here around 116K, and then it failed and started to drop back down. And when it did this, guys, I took a ton of money off the table. I sold roughly 40% of my bag, and I put it into cash. I put it into stable coins. And the reason why is because these are some strange times, guys. And I do believe that the stock market is overdue for a correction. And when that happens, we can see that Bitcoin is coordinated with the stocks. I want to be able to buy that dip. Also, keep in mind this, guys. I bought Solana at $20, and I bought Bitcoin. I got back into Bitcoin with a big chunk when it was at like right under 20K, right around 20K. So I've had a fucking really good return on my investment since then. And hey, I'm taking some money off the table. That doesn't mean you need to. I'm not suggesting you do. But I would be looking at this one indicator on the market to try to determine, what you want to do. And my biggest fear is it going back under that midterm trend line. And that is hanging out right here around 111,000. Even if we have a daily candle below 11,500, that would be cause for concern. And because we can see here the next level where it would drop down to, most likely, we can see it was very much a strong resistance or support level right along here at 107,479. So could it come down here and sweep those lows? Remember, guys, on most of those other charts, this is the Binance chart, but on most of the other exchanges, the low hit right around 107 or 105 in that zone. So I could easily see it coming back down here and testing it if we break out of this position. If we break under this midterm trend line, I could easily see it coming back down here. And the markets have a way of spooking people out. I don't feel like Wall Street was spooked out. Most of those ETF holders, they didn't experience any sort of liquidation events. And they got back, when it opened back up, it had already had a massive recovery. So those folks that dropped it last time on Liberation Day where we saw that dump, I don't think they're diamond hand people, man. I don't think they're diamond handers. And I think if, the markets get spooked, if we see another spook, could that, cause trad markets to go down? I believe it could. Now, I'm watching it very closely, and I will get back into this as soon as I see something more optimistic happening, or if my spidey senses tell me that it is a good time to get back in. Maybe that's getting back in to where right around where I sold off, possibly, or somewhere around there. I don't know, but I took roughly about 7 years of living, so I don't have to do shit for fucking 7 years and worry about any money. I took off less than 1/5 of my net worth, okay, and I put that into cash just to give you an idea of what it is. But it does so happen to be about 6 years. So I would be looking, knowing how cycles work, and if assuming that it's 4 years or 5 years, I like the idea of having 4 to 5 years of cash, and then the other amount I can redeploy into the market. And I'm happy to sit on that kind of cash for now, and I'll look to deploy it when we see a nice big dump. I would like to see gold come back down. I'd like to see some sort of scare in which that might come down, because I'd like to get my hands more on gold. And I would like to re-enter Bitcoin if it comes back down into like these zones right here, 107, 105. If we get all the way down here to where, I think it was 98K. If we go under that, if we go under 98K, I would be really, really concerned. And might have to say that it's over. I think it was Benjamin Cohen, and if you're really into crypto, Benjamin Cohen, and he's been extremely accurate with his analysis. And I think he said if we have a 1 week candle under 102K, then that would be, in his mind, that we've gone into a bear market. Now, granted, we know Bitcoin can move a lot in 1 week, so if you were to holding on to that, you could absolutely lose your fucking ass. So, perhaps I have some PTSD from the last cycle, because I did sell some, but I didn't sell as much as I should have. So I'm not going to be, I'm playing for keeps, guys. I'm not going to look at, possibly losing a shit ton of money when I'm massively in profit. That's just dumb. So, if you are massively in profit, you might want to be taking some off the table, because you never know what can happen. Now, let me end this on a good note, because I still am bullish. I do think we're going to see rate cuts, and I think we could see Bitcoin rip. So I will be deploying some capital back into the market. Let's end it on a good video here. This is Tom Lee speaking on CNBC.
Hey, Tom, Bitcoin, before we let you go, Tell us what you think. We're at about $111,000. The upside, the downside from here?
Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies like Ethereum are super sensitive to monetary policy. So I think that September 17th is an important catalyst. Crypto typically does really well in the fourth quarter. So I think Bitcoin can easily get to 200,000 before year end. I know it's a big move. It's almost a double, but that's also
almost
going to be
a double from here. Let's just hold on. Let's just take a quick pause. A double from here. So everybody's listening to this. We're at $111,000, and you think we, by Christmas time, effectively, we could be at 200,000?
That's right.
Wow. That's pretty funny. Now, leave your comments down below. I was under the impression that, you know, can the Fed really make a statement on the 17th if they don't have data? You know, the government shutdown, has that caused them to be able to get the data to make a statement? I don't know. But either way, it's looking very bullish in those terms. We do have something to look forward to. Keep a close eye on the markets. Make money and monger on.